the EcoFlow Delta Pro 3. What's going on, everybody? I'm Average Joe and welcome to another Average video. All right, in today's Average video, we are going to be taking a look at EcoFlow's brand spanking new Delta Pro 3. They just skipped right over the Delta Pro 2 and went straight for the 3. All right, so in this video, I think what we'll probably do first is go over all the specifications and features and all that kind of fun stuff. And then I think we're going to do something a little bit different than I typically do with the portable power stations. We're not going to be doing all the tests and stuff over here on the bench. We're actually going to go back there to my main electrical panel and we're going to hook this up the 3 different ways that they say you can hook this up to your house, and use it for a backup. First one is going to be a manual generator transfer switch, which I do have back there. Second one is going to be a generator inlet port, again, which I do have. And the third one is going to be the smart home panel 2, which I also have. Now, the reason I want to show you the 3 different ways that you can hook this up to use this as a battery backup, because I don't know if you're familiar with my channel and videos, I'm real big in batteries and inverters and having a battery backup system. The reason I think everybody should have a battery backup system, especially in the cold climate like I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. In the wintertime, it can get well below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. It can get down to like 20, 30, to be honest. If the grid goes out and you lose power, I mean, you're kind of screwed unless you have a battery backup system. I've actually gone through that and it sucked. Back in 2007, whenever we bought our house, the grid did go out in the middle of wintertime. We also have a fireplace, but again, being a brand new homeowner, we didn't have firewood or anything like that. I actually had to drive to the nearest wooded area to find any sort of scrap wood that I could find so I could light a fire to keep warm. It sucked. So anyway, back to having a battery backup. I think everybody should have a battery backup, and there's a few. I think the grid actually went out for a minute there because we're supposed to be getting some storms later on today. Big ones. Some severe thunderstorms. We're actually in a severe thunderstorm warning right now. Hail, wind, the works, tornado. Okay, let me go walk around and check. I'll be right back. Hold on one second.
All right, came upstairs real quick just to see what was going on outside. We do have some pretty cloudy skies. We got some rain earlier this morning and maybe just a little bit of wind, but who knows? Who knows why the power just kind of went out for a second and turned back on. All right, anyway.
What I was getting at is I think everybody should have at least a small battery backup so you can run some critical loads. Critical loads would be like here in Nebraska, and you have a gas furnace. Something to run your gas furnace so you don't freeze in the wintertime. Second one would be your refrigerator. Maybe you just went to the store and you bought a whole bunch of food. You don't want to lose any of that stuff. Third one would be your garage door opener. Maybe your garage door opener doesn't have the little battery backup on it, so maybe you're at work, you come home, power's out, you can't even park inside the garage. For me, at least, that's kind of a big thing. I just don't want to leave my vehicles out in the driveway. Fourth one is kind of optional, but your TV and entertainment area, your cable modem, router, stuff like that. Maybe you have a bunch of kids and you need to entertain them, or you want to keep an eye on the storm. You could be powering those. The fifth one, if you don't have city water, I have city water, so it's not too much of a problem for me, but if you need to run a well pump and you need to get water, water is very important. Those are just some of the critical items that I think basically everybody should be prepared for just in case their grid goes down. Anyway, we'll go over all the specifications and features, stuff like that. We'll hook it up the 3 different ways and we'll run some loads on each one. The manual transfer switch, I've only got maybe 4 circuits hooked up to it, but we'll run some stuff on it. The second one is the generator inlet port. Basically, I can run my entire house. Whenever we do that, we will try to run some of the big loads like the stove, air conditioning, and dryer just to see if it'll do it. We're not going to continually run off of it. And then the third one, again, we'll hook it up to the smart home panel and we'll test some stuff out on that. Alrighty? Let's get to it. Alrighty, my first impressions of the Delta Pro 3, if anybody cares, is it kind of looks like an alien spaceship or, some sort of spaceship or a jet or something like that, because up here on the top it's got this honeycomb area right here which kind of resembles an intake, and then on the back side, which I'll show you in a minute, kind of looks like an exhaust. It's got this nice sleek design and very aerodynamic. I don't know, to me it looks very futuristic and alien spaceshipy. All right, anyway, this is the EcoFlow Delta Pro 3. The battery capacity is 4,096 watt hours. The batteries inside are EV grade lithium iron phosphate, so you know you're going to get that ultra long battery life to exceed 4,000 cycles or 11 years, and that's only down to 80%, so you still got plenty of life left. It comes with a 120 240 split phase pure sine wave 4,000 watt inverter that is expandable up to 12,000 watts. That's of course if you parallel 3 of these together going through the smart home panel. If you only need 8,000 watts, then you'll have to get the generator hub and parallel them through that, which I do have back there. With that 4,000 watt inverter, if you're basically under 2,000 watts, this is basically silent. It's like 30 decibels. It also has the X Boost and X Fusion technology, which allows you to go over that 4,000 watts. I will say though, if you do use that option or feature, I would probably only use it on like resistive loads. I wouldn't want to use it for sensitive equipment like computers, you know, networking gear, you know, stuff like that. But it does have the option. And you get a 5-year warranty. All right, to turn this bad boy on, you got a little tiny button right up here. You're going to hold that down for 2 seconds. It's going to make a couple of beeps. Boom, and we're powered on. All right, so this is real similar to all the other EcoFlow products. However, the center right here for your percent state of charge is more of like a car gauge or cluster style. So that's kind of cool. We got your input and output in watts. Like I said, the center is your battery percent state of charge. And right up there, it says 11.1. That's our time remaining. And that's pretty much it until you plug something in or start recharging it. You know, you won't really see much happening. Moving on, right below that, we get 2 USB-C ports right here, and these are the 100 watt ports. And then we also get 2 USB-A ports, and these are the Quick Charge 3.0. And then right below that, we get 4 120 20 amp outlets. And then to the right of that, we get 1 240 volt outlet, and then we get a 240 volt split phase outlet right here. This one is basically straight 240 volts. This is like where you'd hook up like a 240 volt welder, you know, a dryer, stuff like that. And then right below that is your L1430. This one is 240 volt split phase. So if you're going to be connecting up to like a generator transfer switch, stuff like that, you're going to want to use this port right here. And of course, you can turn those on and off with a push of a button, just like this. And there is one thing I want to mention real quick about the outlets right here is you can't use the 120 and the 240 at the same time. Watch what happens whenever I turn on the 240. Boom, the 120 volt side turns off. And then of course on the front lower side, you're going to get your luggage style handle with a push of a button. Pull that handle all the way out so you can tote it around just like luggage. The handle's nice and long so you can, well, move it around like luggage. First solid detent is 14 inches. If we go out to the second one, 17 inches. And if we go out to the final one, it is 21 inches. All right, nice and solid. It's not going to go anywhere unless you push the button. You can go to any detent on the way back and then finally back in. To the right side behind this door right here, which these doors are pretty cool by the way, you're going to get an on and off button right up here on the top, a 5521 barrel style port. It is 12 volts, 5 amps max. And then finally you're going to get an Anderson style plug right here that is 12 volts, 30 amp max. And one thing I kind of like about these doors is it reminds me of movies with like alien ships or spaceships where you close it and then it pops back out nice and flush. So that's pretty cool. And then if we continue on with the space alien ship or just spaceship, or maybe we could even say car, this is really nice and sleek. It's very aerodynamic. We have a nice chrome strip going across the top right here, and then we have your wheel right back here. And then on the left side behind this space alien door, we're going to get your TT-30 RV style plug right here. And again, these are 120 volts up to 30 amp max. And then finally on the back of this space alien ship, we're going to have your exhaust right up here. And then you get 4 doors right here, and these open up and close exactly like the Delta Pro Ultra. So you open them up and then you can slide them inside. So they're out of the way. Anyway, under door number 1, we're going to get your standard 120 volt AC charging right here. We're going to get your fast and slow charging switch right here. If you're in the slow setting like I am right now, you can see where it says adjust. That means that you can adjust the charge rate inside the app. And then finally over here we get 2 XT60s. These are going to be your solar charging ports right here. So we have a low and a high. The yellow one is going to be your high voltage one. That is 30 volts up to 150 volts, 15 amp max or 1600 watts. And then for the low side is going to be 11 to 60 volts, and you can do up to 20 amp max or 1000 watts. And if you use both of them together, that's 2600 watts. These two ports right over here are going to be your battery expansion ports right here. And then finally under this one, this is your AC power in and out port. Open that one up. This port right here has many functions, all right? This is where you're gonna hook it up to a smart home panel too, if you have one. You can also get an adapter to charge from a generator, and you can also get an adapter to do level 2 charging at EV charging stations. So if you bring this with you, you know, camping or RV or wherever you are and you're traveling and you need to recharge it and you have that adapter, you can plug that in here and recharge it. So that's pretty cool. And also whenever you pull out the input and output door, it's going to list all the specifications of the Delta Pro 3. And then right on top, you're going to get your two lifting handles with your leather covers and then this nice hexagonal pattern, which looks really cool. But there's no wireless phone charging. All right, I kind of lied just a little bit. We are going to do a couple of tests over here on the bench before we hook it up to the house. All right, first one is going to be if you have it plugged in, does the 240 output still work? If I push the button, it does work. We'll go ahead and check the output voltage, and we're sitting at 237 volts. Hopefully you can see that right over here on the meter. So output for 240 volts does work, even though we're plugged into 120 volts. So that is pretty awesome. All right, next one is going to be the sound meter, and I'm going to do it as best as I can. Just keep in mind, I've got some heaters right down here, so we might hear those over this. But I'll try to do the best that I can, okay? We're going to try to get over the 2000 watt mark. I am going to unplug it from the wall, by the way. Switch over to 120. I'm going to plug him in, and we'll turn this heater on high. All right, we'll plug in heater number 2. We'll turn him on high. I'm gonna throw him over here. All right, so now we're drawing almost 3000 watts. And I think honestly, we're gonna hear the heaters over this right here. Okay, I still don't hear anything at all. We're drawing 2896 watts. Absolutely nothing. We're at 50 watts, but I'm pretty sure it's the heaters. The display does show a little tiny fan up here spinning, so maybe it's on low at the moment. Yeah, it's barely on. All right, the fans are barely on. We're gonna hear the heaters over the fan on here. So this test is kind of a bust, at least for right now. All right, moving on. All right, next test is gonna be the UPS test, and I have my little tiny O-scope right down here. Keep in mind, I'm not the best at O-scopes and all that kind of stuff. So basically what we're gonna do is pull the plug and see if it transfers over in less than 10 milliseconds. All right, here we go. And of course, I'll have to review the footage, but we'll do it again. All right, plugging it back in. All right, we're plugged back in. All right, I'm gonna pull the plug again. It looks super fast. All right, plugging it back in. All right, we're gonna do it one more time. Boom, there we go. Okay, all right, well, I'll have to review the footage, but from what I could see, it was super fast. All right, next test is gonna be the 10-inch sliding compound miter saw, which is 15 amps, and then we're also gonna do the 14 amp air compressor, and I have both of those sitting right down here. At the moment, I still have the 1500 watt heater plugged in. I think I'll just leave it in and we'll see what happens. I'm also gonna leave the O-scope plugged in, and I have this camera pointing right at it so we can see what that looks like. All right, first one we're gonna do is the 10-inch sliding compound miter saw. Again, I'm not cutting any wood because we're inside my house and all that kind of stuff. We're just looking for that surge. All right, so we got 1481 watts right now. Here we go. Does that, no problem. I'll do it again. I saw it surge up to maybe 3600. All right, next one will be the air compressor. This should be no problem. No problem at all. Let's see if we can do all three. So we have the heater, we have the air compressor right now. Then the saw. I saw a little over 4,900 watts right over here on the readout. So it does all three of these, no freaking problem. Nice. Now, if I had something that was 240 volts down here, I would definitely plug that in and try it out. But I don't, other than powering my house, which we will do next. One thing I do want to do, of course, is remove the Delta Pros and the Delta Pro Ultras so there's no confusion or any trickery or anything like that. And I'll also shut down my off-grid system that I'm powering my house with right now. Like that. So we'll remove all of this stuff. All right, so I removed the Delta Pros, the Delta Pro Ultras, and I turned off all of my off-grid systems, so we're back on grid, so I can show you the 3 different ways that you could hook up the Delta Pro 3, in an emergency to power critical loads, basically through the generator transfer switch right over here, or if you wanted to run your entire house, you could go through a generator inlet port, just like this one right over here, or if you had the smart home panel 2, you could power basically, whatever you have connected to the smart home panel 2. Okay, so first one we're going to do, just to show you that it does work, we're going to be going up to the manual generator transfer switch right over here, and on here I've only got 4 different circuits. So I've got my TV room upstairs, I have my basement shop area over here because I've got 2 different refrigerators down there, and then I also have my refrigerator upstairs, and then finally I have my gas furnace down here. Whenever we're done with that, we're going to connect up to the generator inlet port right here. Through this port I can actually power my entire house. Not that I really need to for this test, but I want to show you that you can do it. And then finally we'll connect it up to the EcoFlow Smart Home Panel 2. Anyway, let's get this party started. So in order for us to connect up to this manual transfer switch over here, we're going to need an L1430 cable, just like this one right here. I guess depending on which kind of manual transfer switch you have. All right, so we're going to connect one end of our cable right down here onto the front of the Delta Pro 3. Plug it in and give it just a little tiny twist. We're going to take the other end and we're going to plug it into the generator transfer switch right here. Give that a little tiny twist. All we need to do is go from line mode, which is grid, up to generator mode, which would be the Delta Pro 3. If anybody was curious if these switches are fast enough to keep your computer alive, I will show you. So right over here I have my computer set up with 4 different screens. I'm going to flip the switches and we'll see if these stay on. Alright, so here we go. First one is going to be my upstairs TV room, which is the internet and all that kind of stuff. Next one is my basement shop with the computer. Alright, so here goes the computer. Boom, computer is still on. So if you need to, you can switch that and keep your computer alive. Alright, that looks like it stayed on just fine. Next one will be fridge. And then the last one will be the furnace. All right, there we go. So now we're connected up to the manual generator transfer switch. This is basically for your critical loads, which we are powering right now. And if you want to take a look at the app, again, it's basically the same as all the other apps, but I can at least show you. So right over here, you can see we're drawing roughly 740 watts, and it's jumping up to 800 watts. If we continue at this draw, we have roughly 4 hours and 45 minutes of runtime. Again, in here, you can turn everything on and off. If we were doing solar input, you could see all of that in here, which obviously we don't because it's really cloudy and rainy, and I would have to rearrange an array out there in order for this to show up. But that's basically it. If I turned off my computer over there, we'd probably get a whole lot more runtime. But while we're here, I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my furnace fan. It's not gonna turn on my air conditioning or anything like that, but I'm just gonna turn on the fan just to show you that it works. All right, so let me turn this down. We'll switch over here. Maybe we can see it jump. All right, there it goes. Now we're up to 1.2 kilowatt. And if we continue running with the furnace fan on, that dropped us down to 3 hours and 20 minutes. Again, if this happened in the winter time, of course, I would have my computer turned off and probably really only the furnace and a couple lights and stuff like that. We would get a lot more runtime. All right, well, that's pretty much all I'm going to show you for the generator transfer switch. Let me switch this over real quick. All we're going to do is go from generator mode, which is the Delta Pro 3, we're going to flip it all the way down to line mode, which is grid power. And again, it's super easy and quick. We can disconnect this right here and come back down here, give it a little twist, and remove it. That's pretty much it. All right, next thing we're going to do is power the entire house through the generator inlet port, and there's kind of 3 different ways to do that, and I'm going to show you all 3 ways depending on which generator inlet port you have. If you have a 30 amp generator inlet port, all you're going to need is the L1430 plug right here, and we're going to plug it into the front just like we did to the manual transfer switch up there. If you don't have a 30 amp plug and maybe you have a 50 amp plug, you can get an adapter cable so it can go from L1430 to the 50 amp style plug right here. Okay, that's number 2. And then option number 3, which also allows you to parallel in another Delta Pro 3, is going through the generator hub right here. So you will need one of these cables, the input and output cable, which is going to plug into one of these inputs right here. The other end of the cable is going to plug into the back of the Delta Pro 3, and then you're going to need a 50 amp generator plug, which I have right here. So this would be option number 3. I'm not going to be doing this because I really don't need to since I have the other cables, but this is an option. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is power my entire house with the Delta Pro 3. So all we're going to need to do is plug in my cable adapter right here from my L1430 to the 50 amp plug. I forget what these are called. It's like SS50 or something like that. But anyway, we're going to plug in right down here just as we did before. Plug him in here. Give him a little twist. Don't forget to turn on the inverter. And the other end's going to go right in here to the generator inlet port. All right, so we'll plug him in and give it a little twist. All right, so since we're going through a generator inlet port, you're going to need a generator lockout just like this one right here. What this basically does is it prevents you from powering your house from 2 different sources at the same time, and it also prevents you from backfeeding the grid, just in case a lineman is out there doing some work on some lines, trying to restore power basically to your neighborhood. You don't want to be powering the lines when he's working on them. So you definitely need a generator lockout switch. I got mine from Amazon for like 23 bucks, and they're super easy to install. It's basically 3 screws and you're done. All right, so if you've never seen one of these or seen one of these work before, basically what we're getting ready to do is we're going to flip the main breaker off, and that will allow us to slide up the lock so we can turn on the generator inlet port, which we just plugged into. All right, so once we flip the lockout up and turn on the generator circuit breaker, we won't be able to flip on the main breaker, all right? Okay, so we're getting ready to do that now. I'm gonna basically lose all power to my house except for my little battery powered light over here. All right, here we go. Flip the main breaker off. We're gonna flip this up and turn that on. And now we're powering my entire house from the Delta Pro 3. It's that easy. Boom, there we go. Now we're powering my entire house off of the Delta Pro 3. I can pull up the app real quick if you want to see it. Right now my house is drawing basically 1,000 watts. Since we just flipped everything on, my refrigerators and all that kind of stuff, they all kicked on. So once the refrigerators figure out what they're doing and they're all cold and all that kind of stuff, those will calm down, and my output, of course, is going to go down as well. Okay, so first thing I want to do, since we're down here, we're going to try my dryer, which is right over here. And I don't know if it's going to do it because dryers can pull like 5,000-6,000 watts, but we'll give it a try. I'm just gonna run this for maybe a minute if it'll even start it, and we'll put it on its highest setting. All right, so yes, power failure mode, I know that. Okay, so here we go. I doubt it'll do it. If it shuts off, my internet's gonna shut off, so we might lose communication real quick, but here we go. Oh, all right, we did shut it off. It ran for about 1 second. All right, so down here on the Delta 3, I don't see any warnings. Maybe I got over here too late, but the inverter did shut off, so we're gonna turn that back on. All right, lights turned back on. All right, just a few minutes later, I had to wait for my router and stuff to reset. I did not want to do my dryer, but that's okay because in a grid down situation, I'm probably not going to be using my dryer. But one thing we would use would be the air conditioning. So we're going to try that next. So I do have to turn that breaker on. Let me flip over to the air conditioning, and we're going to try that right now, okay? Hopefully we can capture all of that. All right, here it goes. And it did do it. So we're drawing 3.46 kilowatts. So I have a 4-ton air conditioning out there. However, I do have a soft start. So if you're going to be running your air conditioning in a grid down situation, you definitely want to have a soft start installed. Otherwise, I don't know if it would actually do a 4-ton air conditioning. But so far, it's doing pretty good. So we're pulling 3.5 kilowatt. And the fan just kicked on, but my furnace fan is also on, so I don't know how well you're going to be able to hear it. I'm standing about 3 feet away from it. It's really, really quiet. So I'm going to come down here. Here's my microphone right here. And here's my cat. Hey, buddy. Did I scare you doing the power outage stuff? All right, so this is extremely quiet. So if you have to use this, you know, in your bedroom or something like that, maybe you have medical equipment, stuff like that, you know, in a grid down situation, in the middle of the night when the fans kick on, this should not wake you up. All right, well, it powers my air conditioning, no problem. The fans are on and it's super, super quiet. I don't really know what else I could technically show you, you know, other than some lights and stuff that are being powered upstairs. So the next thing we're gonna do is I'll disconnect this real quick and then we will hook it up to the Smart Home Panel 2 and do some simulated grid outages with that. All right, we're gonna lose power again real quick, so give me just a second. We're gonna turn off the generator power. Boom. We're gonna flip this back over. Alrighty, so now we're back on grid power. All right, to hook this up to the Smart Home Panel 2, we're gonna be going through the input and output port on the back here. So we'll open up that door, slide the door in, take one end of our input output port, and we will plug that in right here. On the bottom of the Smart Home Panel 2, we can plug into any one of these AC inputs. So I'm just gonna pick the middle one, and we'll plug that right in here. And then we're gonna hit our button right up here on the top, and it'll connect. Boom. Once we do that, the light over here is gonna turn yellow depending on the state of charge of your battery. Mine did right here because we're recharging from grid. All right, and I've got mine set to recharge for 500 watts. Again, you can go in here and basically change whatever you want. All right, so now if you use this system right here, you have basically a complete home backup. All right, there's one thing I'll mention real quick is I'm not going to be going through all the examples on how to use the Smart Home Panel 2. I've already done that in a couple other videos, which I will link down below. Basically, all I wanted to do is show you that you can use the Delta 3 Pro with the Smart Home Panel 2 and have basically a complete home backup. Anyway, there's a couple different settings inside the app that I want to show you that you should have enabled so you're ready for the next power outage. And one of those is EPS mode. And if I click on the little question mark, EPS mode is emergency power supply mode. If you have that enabled and the grid or power goes down, everything is going to switch over to battery backup within 20 milliseconds. 20 milliseconds is fast enough for your computer to stay on, which I could show you in just a second. Anyway, we want to have that one enabled, so we'll go ahead and do that right now. The next one would be your outage strategy. So inside of here, you can set up all of your circuits in here basically to have power all the way down to 0% state of charge, or you can also set up a couple other circuits that you don't technically need power. You can have those shut off at a specific percent state of charge. All right, so basically how I have mine set up is I want everything in here to have power all the way down to 0% state of charge. So that's my kitchen and stairs. That's basically the lights and a couple outlets over there. My front room, my TV room, my fridge, my furnace, my garage, because I want to be able to open the garage with the clicker, and my basement shop area down here, basically because I have 2 refrigerators on down there. And then the last one is my kitchen island, because that has a little tiny water fountain dish for my cats. If there was a couple things that you didn't technically need power all the way down to 0% state of charge, let's say you wanted them to go down to 50% state of charge like I just set in here, you can do that. All right, you can do that all in here. So we'll just say I wanted my fridge to shut off at 50% state of charge. You would just add that circuit in here, and whenever the battery reaches 50% state of charge, that specific circuit would shut off. And everything else you have in here would continue to have power. The next one would be Storm Guard. So if there's a severe weather event happening within the next 12 hours, this will pick up on that and it'll recharge your batteries up to 100% state of charge so you're ready for that next power outage. So that is pretty awesome. I'm going to go ahead and re-enable that. All right, so this does pick up on the severe weather event that we're going to possibly have later, and it's going to recharge my batteries up to 100%. Or at least it thinks it's going to while we test some stuff out. All right, let me go turn on my computer real quick and we'll simulate another grid outage, and I'll show you that the transfer time of this will be able to keep the computer up and running. All right, got the computer back up and running. All right, I can actually simulate this from me standing right over here. I can basically take my house off grid. So all we're gonna do is go up here to the settings, and we're gonna go to operating mode, and in here you could set your house up for many different things. You can do self-powered mode, which basically takes you off grid. You can do scheduled tasks, or TOU, or time of use mode. So if you get charged more during a certain part of the day and less during the other part of the day, you can recharge during the cheap time and then use this to power your house during the expensive time. Or of course, if you have solar panels hooked up, you know, the possibilities are endless. Anyway, I'm gonna switch this off grid. I'll show you how quickly this switches over, and we'll see if my computer stays on. All right, here we go. Actually, hold on. All right, so I just had to turn off Storm Guard real quick because it wants to keep recharging it. So anyway, we're gonna go to operating mode, and we're gonna hit the self-powered mode, which will turn us off grid. Here we go. Boom, computer is still on. And now we're powering basically everything on this panel off grid. All right, I'm gonna switch us back on grid real quick, just in case. All right, so if that wasn't convincing enough, the next thing we'll do is simulate a grid outage. Technically, I could flip off these breakers right over here, but I'll do it from this circuit breaker right over here. It's basically the same thing. I'm just gonna shut off the circuit breaker that feeds that panel. In 3, 2, 1, boom. All right, so now you can see we're using battery power and everything is running as it normally would. So everything that's on this panel right now continued to run because we have the EPS enabled. If you don't have that enabled, it takes like 5 seconds for everything to turn off and turn back on. So either way, it's gonna turn on, but if you have EPS enabled, it's pretty much instant. All right, so also you can see right here, the grid indicator down here turned from white to red. That also is another indication. Let me go run over there real quick to make sure the computer stayed on, so we are good to go. Looks like my computer stayed on, no problem. Boom, there you go. This thing is fast enough for everything to remain on, including my computer. All right, so there you go. Basically everything that this panel is drawing is 833 watts. Again, we got my kitchen stairs and lights. We got my front room. We got a TV room, furnace, garage, island, fridge, and basement shop. So that's gonna be my computer stuff over here. 2 refrigerators down here, 1 refrigerator upstairs, you know, some lights on, my router, my cable modem, you know, all of that kind of fun stuff. So we're drawing 824 watts. And also I wanna mention, just like before, when we were hooked up to the generator transfer switch right over here, we have basically the same load. And if we continue drawing roughly 800 watts, we're gonna get 4.5 to 5 hours runtime. All right, well, I think that's pretty much all I'm gonna show you with this right here. I don't think I need to run around and show you everything that's being powered, so we'll simulate the grid coming back on. Turn that on. We'll get a couple clicks and stuff over here. And actually, you can see right over here, it already switched over. So the app is really, really quick. Boom, there we go. Now we're back on grid, and you can see that the grid indicator LED went from red to white. And now everything's back on grid. All right, well, I think that's pretty much all I could show you. I would hook up some solar panels, but then I'd have to go outside and reconfigure my solar arrays, which I'm not gonna do. All right, well, I'm gonna leave this connected up just in case we lose power from the storm later on.
Later that same evening.
Grid is gone. We're having a pretty big storm right now.
Good storm.
It's a really good storm. Yeah, I mean, those
It's
trees.
loud.
It is. It's loud, and those trees are really swaying.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't had a good storm like this. This is what it was like with the tornado almost.
Okay, that was only a couple months ago.
Yeah, other than that, we haven't had a storm like this in a really long time. We're the only house that has power. I love it.
The next morning.
So everything is good on my end. However, my buddy John that lives just a few miles north of me, his power is still out. Apparently either a tree limb or an entire tree fell down on his power lines and...
Take the next left onto Northridge Drive, then sharp right onto North 34th Street.
Not sure why you're yelling at me. Well, here's more here. I gotta find another route. There's trees down literally everywhere. There's a power line down right there. Wow. Just tried turning around, look at all that. Power lines, trees, everything. I think we found a way through. Look at that. Another one. Holy. Hi, John. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. You are not kidding. All right. Okay, well, let's get you some power.
Power of the sun.
Yep, power of the sun. Boom. Basement lights, nice.
Stairwell light.
Stairwell lights.
Fridge is
Refrigerator's on. You have absolutely nothing in here.
I ate it all.
What you got up here? You got some old bacon. Got a light right here. TV's on. Internet's coming back up. Thermostat's on. Office stuff. Got everything hooked up, powering up the entire house. I'm probably gonna run home and grab some solar panels so we can throw them out in the yard to give them just a little bit more run time. We got the solar panels just thrown out here in the yard. We just got them propped up on logs. So right now we're only charging at like 300 or 400 watts from each little array because the sun is already starting to go down. But hopefully tomorrow we get some good sun.
4 to 6 days later.
John finally got power. That storm was ridiculous. There was trees and power lines down everywhere, which I'll have a video on that coming out here pretty soon. So make sure you subscribe and come back and watch that one. Anyway, back to the EcoFlow Delta Pro 3. We're gonna start wrapping up this video because it's gone on way longer than I thought it was. Anyway, there was a few things that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video when I was going over all these specifications and stuff like that. So I kind of touched on it just a little bit. You can parallel two of these together for 8,000 watt output. That's going through the generator hub. And if you have the smart home panel 2, then you can parallel in three of these together for 12,000 watt output, your inverter output, and then 36 kilowatt hour worth of battery storage. And EcoFlow also has a brand new dual fuel smart generator 4000, which you can plug into the back to recharge this. That plugs into one of the battery ports. I of course would love to show you that, but I don't have one of those. All right, so overall I would say this did fan-freaking-tastic. I do have a couple things for my pro cons list that we'll go over real quick. We'll start with the pros. So pro number one, it does my heater, my air compressor, and my 10-inch sliding compound miter saw all at the exact same time. That is amazing. A lot of the other portable power stations that I test can basically do one at a time. The second one is it actually started my 4-ton air conditioning, but also keep in mind I do have a soft start. So if you don't have a soft start and you have a 4-ton air conditioning, I can't guarantee that it's going to start it, but it started mine just fine. The third one is this looks awesome. Like I said at the beginning, it looks like a space alien ship. It's just beautiful. It looks fan-freaking-tastic. I mean, EcoFlow's doing a great job of making beautiful portable power stations, and their smart home panel too, of course. The fourth one is obviously it has 240 volt split phase right on the front. And then for my cons list, I would say, let's see, what do I have? What do I have for my cons? I don't remember. My cons list real quick is for the outlets up front, you can only use 120 or 240 at the exact same time. I'm not sure why you couldn't use them at the same time, but you can't. The second one is whenever you turn it on, the weak beep that it makes. I'll make it for you real quick. All right, that's turning off. Here goes on. I'm just not a fan of that beep noise. And I'm pretty sure I can turn that off in the app. Does that count as a con? I don't know. Some of these I feel like it's kind of like a double-edged sword because the third one is Because this is so beautiful and looks so good, you kind of just don't want to take it anywhere. So if you're like camping or wherever you want to take it, you know, portable, I think I would be kind of scared to scratch it all up because it looks so nice. I don't know, maybe they could make one a little more rugged. Then I wouldn't feel so bad of scratching it up. Other than that, I really can't think of anything else. So if you guys have any pro cons, make sure you put those down in the comment section. All right, well, I think that's pretty much all I got. If anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns about the Delta Pro 3, make sure you put those down in the comment section. If I have any sort of discounts, I'll just flash those right up on the screen and put those down in the comment section. If you thought this video was helpful in any way, make sure you like that smash button on the way out, and I will see you on the next. Second one is going through a generator inlet point. Second one is going to be a generator inlet point. You're going to get your fast and slow charging Swiss. All right, so we got a 1480 watt amp.